Good morning to you, Abimbola. Great to have you on. Abimbola, can you hear
Good
me?
morning. Good
right.
morning. And thank you for having me on the show this morning.
All right. You can be part of Business Express this morning by sending your messages in via WhatsApp on 0809 444 981. We are also streaming live on YouTube at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. You can catch a live stream out there on YouTube. All right. Now let's start with the solid minerals sector. And this report from the Nigerian Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, that's NATI. So apparently, Nigeria's solid mineral sector has realized $1.4 billion over the last 13 years. Now, is that a good or a bad figure?
Thank you. I will say it's a quite low figure. Looking at its contribution of just about 0.5% to the GDP, and also just about 0.02% to the exports. So it's quite low, and of course, there's much room for growth and development in that sector for it to be able to contribute more, yes. And even comparing it to the oil and gas sector, we contributed about 294 billion in just 10 years. I will say that figure is quite low for the solid mineral sector. So there's much room for improvement.
I mean, 394 billion to 1.4 billion. Now, that is quite a wide gap. Now, why is it that the mining sector has lagged behind so badly, bearing in mind that Nigeria is blessed with so many solid minerals?
I quite agree with you. Yes, we're blessed. Based on the reports seen so far, the sector is characterized by artisanal mining, and that is the use of informal mining activities with low technology. And of course, when the use of technology is quite low, we will not expect to have much from that end. And of course, the lack of data, which discourages investors. The availability of comprehensive data enables investors to invest in a particular sector. When they have enough data, it will help them form a decision to know whether to invest or not. So the solid mineral sector in Nigeria has been characterized by low data, lack of data, and informal mining activities, which has not been able to attract investors. And that's why we have that kind of bad figure in terms of this performance so far. Thank you.
All right, now, Dr. Ogunaya Oji, the Executive Director of NATI, believes that the solid mineral sector has been neglected for too long, obviously, and has the potential to contribute over 60% of Nigeria's GDP if properly invested in. Do you agree with that assertion?
I do. Yes, like I said, if there's transparency, enough data to enable to attract investors, and the use of technology, if all that is put in place, enough engagement with stakeholders to identify other issues, I guess not 60% immediately. Over time, of course, I think the sector will be able to contribute more. But in terms of the 60% figure, I expect that will be a long-term goal, but not immediate. But I expect that if the proper things are put in place, in engagements, technology, availability of data, we will see improvements in that sector.
Once again, the lack of proper data causing so many problems in the country. All right, now NATI has launched a strategic plan for 2022 to 2026 that is aimed at promoting investments, transparency, as well as capacity building in the solid mineral sector. Now, what does this plan need to be a success?
So like you mentioned, and I mentioned earlier, engagement with various stakeholders, inculcating all that from the miners, the government, putting enough reforms in place to enhance the sector, implementation of the plan through professionalism, innovation, the use of technology, and like you said, capacity building. When all that is in place, and those reforms are properly driven, yes, I expect that the plan, the 2022 to 26 strategic plan launched by NATI will be successful.
We really hope so, because looking at what we have in Nigeria, we really shouldn't be having these conversations right now. But anyway, let's move from solid minerals and let's talk about livestock. Now, Professor Eustace Yayi, the Registrar and Chief Executive Officer of the Nigeria Institute of Animal Science, says that Nigeria's livestock subsector of agriculture is potentially worth, wait for it, 30 trillion naira. Now, is that an exaggeration or is that actual, an actual thing?
So looking at the as in like the drive towards agriculture, and of course the increase in farming, there's animal livestock sector of agriculture. We've seen increased interest over the past few years since Nigeria started this reform to diversify from oil and looking for other sectors to contribute towards the GDP. We've seen increased farming, and of course, that's also trickled down to the livestock subsector. I will not say it's exaggerated. He must have put out that figure based on his own facts, but I know that there has been increased in what's it called, participation in that sector. So of course, we could have up to that. I will not put it out there that he's exaggerating. He must have his figures for putting out that figure. Thank you.
And I guess, and I believe that he sees that there's potential for even a whole lot more growth, bearing in mind that we have the environment to be able to thrive. Nigeria relies heavily on dairy imports due to the underdeveloped local industry and low milk production of local animals. But let's hope that will change and necessary things are put in place in order to make that happen. Now, Professor Yai further said that Nigeria spends, and now this is highlighting what I just mentioned, Nigeria spends $1.5 billion annually on milk importation because 60% of the milk we consume is imported. What do we need to do to turn this around? We have cows here. We have lots of cows, and we're importing $1.5 billion worth of milk annually. What do we need to do to turn this around?
Okay, so first of all, for us to rely too much on imports, then that means our local industry is underdeveloped. We have so many reasons, factors affecting the development of the local industry, especially, well, we've had security issues due to bandits and clashes in those regions. We have seen flooding affect even the farmers that cultivate grains, which is used for livestock. And also the war in Ukraine also affect the supply of grain, which actually caused a spike in the prices of grain used for their feeds. So if we look inwards and deal with all these internal issues and that can help grow that local industry, then I think, yes, of course, that will bring about a turnaround. The government should address the security issues affecting the farmers, also put infrastructures in place to deal with the flooding issues that is affecting the growth of grains in Nigeria, and also as in work with the stakeholders, the various stakeholders, the academia, the farmers, and of course come up with policies that will help the local industry thrive better. I guess with all this put in place, yes, we will see a turnaround in the local industry and reduce our reliance on imports rather.
Definitely need to see a turnaround because $1.5 million annually on milk doesn't sit well with me. Now, from a nutritional standpoint, obviously, milk is very vital to the human body. Now, would there be any health implications if we don't produce enough milk at home while these imports get more and more expensive? Because I know, first of all, they are becoming more and more expensive. We go to the supermarkets and we see how the figures are just jumping up each and every single day.
Yes, there will be health implications because the average people will not be able to, the low income earners will not be able to afford milk in their homes. And that, of course, that will be a deficit in terms of the nutritional requirements for children, even for adults, because milk is actually vital for the human body. So yes, being more expensive, of course, will result to health implications if people are not able to afford it.
Milk is very, very high in calcium and very good for growing children. Now, let's look at collaboration. How important is collaboration and synergy collaboration, in particular in the operations of all stakeholders in order to improve livestock production in Nigeria?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, yes, bringing all the stakeholders in together to collaborate, highlight all the issues, and come up with solutions and reforms to resolve them. I mentioned the security issues, flooding, providing public funds to support the farmers, and the use of technology will enable the farmers to do better in terms of production. Yes. So the collaboration of stakeholders is quite key for the progress of that of the local industry.
All right. Now, so far this morning we've talked about soil minerals, we talked about agriculture. Now, let me just put you on the spot here. Which sector do you think is more important to Nigeria, and why would you think so?
I would like to. I would prefer any of the sectors, because I think there's a synergy among all the sectors. Each sector will actually affect all others. Some are intertwined. While I'll also say that if you leave one for the other, of course, that will see the kind of deficit we're currently seeing in solid mineral sector, because there has been so much interest probably in the oil sector and all that. So all the sectors should be actually properly reviewed and ensure that there's enough growth and development in all sectors. None should be as in preferred to the other. So we should all work together to ensure that all the sectors of the economy that are actually thriving and there's growth and development. That will also, so that all of them can actually contribute properly to the GDP. Yeah. So I will not pick one. I will not. Thank you.
That's the most diplomatic answer that you actually have come up with. Yes, and I actually agree with you that getting all the sectors up and running and getting them working at optimal capacity is definitely going to be of more benefit to the country. Yes, they might not all work at the same levels, but they can be working a whole lot better than they are now.
Yeah.
And of course, looking at agriculture, people need to eat, and of course, with inflation and the shortages of food that we're going through in the country at the moment, agriculture is definitely one sector that cannot be neglected. But we hope that we focus on all these sectors and then we can get everything up and running as quickly as possible. Thank you so much, Bimbo Moronkola, for joining me this morning on Business Express. It's been a great one talking to you.
Thank you, too. Thank you for having me.
All right, you have yourself a great Thursday ahead.
You too. Thanks, bye.
And that's all the time we have on Business Express this month. There's still so much more to come on this smooth breakfast. There's great music to look forward to. And of course, at 7:30, it'll be time to get into the news stories on Freshly Pressed. Keep listening to Smooth 98.1.
Focus on the Nigerian economy. We see the bigger picture. Business.